Welcome to Daytona Beach, Florida, and for a season that brings a whole new world of anticipation along with it. Qualifying currently underway at the moment as a brand new dawn of primetime evening sim racing comes to you from the one and only Forever Sim Racing YouTube channel. You're absolutely right. We're watching this, the Venomworks Sportscar Championship. It's multi-class and it is here live and uninterrupted, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you watching around the world. It is Jake Sperry here in the commentary box, joined with Caitlin Penny on my left-hand side. Cameras being provided for this one by Marco Barbanera, and this is qualifying currently at the moment. 8 minutes of qualifying here for those in the GTE category. Two categories of class. The other category class is LMP2 with the big HPD ARX, a tale as old as time with that vehicle. But Caitlin, you've got qualifying currently underway. It is Billy Fletcher who's currently at the tops, 140.918, the only driver to break that barrier, but they have 3 minutes, which is effectively 2 laps to get it all sorted.
Indeed, we got the GTEs on track at the minute, no LMP2s to spoil their flow, and we're seeing what kind of lap times they can deliver. Currently, as you say, it is Billy Fletcher on pole, and the BMWs are looking quick. We've now got a Porsche up to second place, that's PJ Clayson's, and Clayson's with a 141.119, just over 0.2 of a second behind Fletcher at this point in time. I do notice plenty of other BMWs in and around the top positions, as well as a few Ferraris. And the other car that we have here today, as well as the Porsche, BMW and Ferraris that I've mentioned, we do also have Fords in the field, although I am yet to see one of those going past. But anyway, Jake, yeah, this is a wonderful event, multi-class GTEs. Currently, who have you got your eye on?
Well, I've got my eye currently looking at a driver who has yet to set a time. This is Adam Wright in the number 83 machine. He needs to find a time and needs to find a time quickly, or he's starting from the very, very back of this field. And of course, all the positions are starting to change. Elmar Noteboom goes up into third position. Fraser Smith up to fourth for BritTech, and they'll be very happy with that in terms of their times that they are looking for. But it is still one driver breaking the barrier at the moment. Adam Wright needs to find a time. Someone else who looked quick, was the fastest man in practice, was Ollie Slade in the number 34. Not long in terms of time to get one sorted and together. I believe it is Mastermind rules. They will start, so they will finish. And of course, Ollie Slade, if you look at his vehicle, if you look in the vents of his BMW, he's got two very nice Forever Sim Racing stickers. They make you 1/10 of a second faster every time you go around the track. He'll look to cross the line. Ollie Slade, 141.5. It's good enough for 8th place at the moment, Caitlin.
Of course, those stickers make you go faster, Jake, but I should correct myself. I don't see any Fords. That's interesting. Seems no one went for that option. But anyway, everyone else still continuing to lap. The drivers who haven't yet set laps, you mentioned Slade. He's just set one, of course. Dion Phillips didn't set a lap in practice either, so we're not sure if he is going to be racing today. Lee Woodburn is currently on track at this point in time, as is Adam Wright, who is a driver that you were looking out for. He's just had a bit of traffic heading through the King, but I don't think that would have affected him too much. Woodburn's going to be the first of those two to set his time, in the very nicely liveried Ferrari. And as he crosses the line, we'll see what he can do. But I'm also looking at Fraser Smith, because he's got a wonderful slipstream here down at the start-finish straight, and I'm surprised that he didn't improve on his lap with that one.
No, it was 2 seconds slow. It was a 143.2, and 8 minutes comes up on the clock right now. So their times are going to be all but over at this point in time in terms of qualifying. So they will all be pulling it off the side in the next couple of minutes' time. So for the moment, Billy Fletcher for your GTE field at the top then in the BMW. We'll be very happy with that. Second, it's PJ Clayson's in the Porsche. Third, Elmar Noteboom in the BMW. And then Fraser Smith makes it 3 BMWs in the top 4 at the moment. The first Ferrari is Ewan Marshall's. He's there in 5th place. And, of course, that Ferrari is very much more attuned to being a corner-style vehicle more than a long straight vehicle. And when you think about Daytona, how half of this track is all straight, it makes all the difference in the world to have a little bit of grunt underneath the bonnet.
Absolutely, it does. Adam right across the line. He's only gone 16th with that and did not have a toe. That's one of the, well, it really shows that you need to have a toe, a slipstream from the car in front, because the majority of this track, actually, in terms of pure distance, is on the oval section. It's built, well, it's cool. It's not called a speedway for nothing. It's built for speed, and really, he's missed out there and will have to come through the field. It's a 1 hour race, so not anywhere near as long as the 24 hours or the Daytona 500, obviously. Although there is still opportunity to come through and fight, especially since Daytona not the most difficult track to overtake on. I suppose the difficulty here is getting ahead and staying ahead.
Well, all drivers will be now called after they finish their laps to come down into the pits. PJ Clayson's did go quicker, 140.965. It just wasn't enough, though. He was half a tenth of a second off of what he needed for pole position. So GTEs are done. This is how GTE's grid is going to stack. So Billy Fletcher will be on the pole for that with PJ Clayton alongside. Elmar Noteboom and Fraser Smith will have the second row. Ewan Marshall and Paul King will go from row 3. Following that will be Keanu Bourgonjon and also Ollie Slade, their 7th and 8th. Louis Hanker will start this one from 9th. Ethan Bass rounding out the top 10. Following that, you got Steve Norman, Morgan Thompson, Kim Bate, Dane Baird, Craig Harris, Adam Wright, Lee Woodburn, Dan James, and Jason Haddington. The 19 cars that have set times in qualifying, Dion Phillips will be a steward for this race as they go through. So we have ourselves about a minute before the HPDs have their times that they have to get through. And this is a very, very good HPD field. You don't often talk about the LMP2 having very strong numbers. It's very rare to see HPD numbers equal to that of GTE vehicles, but this league, the Venomworks Sportscar Championship, they've been able to do it, Caitlin, in a car which is probably about as old and, in fact, older than the time I've been here on the iRacing service.
Indeed, you don't see open top LMP2s anymore. Those were last run, in fact, in the prototype challenge class of Daytona when they raced in IMSA. Although realistically, we haven't seen them running in a modern LMP2 class in many, many years. But still wonderful cars, still provide very close racing, and the drivers to look out for in practice. There were 2 drivers who managed to set lap times under 1:34, and yeah, that is practice. There may be things such as sandbagging going on. There may be drivers who haven't quite shown their full potential just yet, but the 2 drivers who set times under 1:34 were Chris Daines and Tony Baird.
Now look at this on pit exit here. They've got themselves 15 seconds before they're allowed to go past the green commitment cone. They're all trying to work out where they go, and this is the big issue. It's a one-line pit exit, and they are 4 wide trying to get the run towards that section. So somebody is going to run up into troubles. There's the go, and now sort yourself out, boys and girls. This is going to be very difficult. Josh Johnson got the big jump. He'll be first, but you don't want to be there around a track like this. This is a draft track. You need to make sure you got some tow to help you. Yellow Peter Hoogland would say is in the best position. Then you got JPW Ringwood. Jake Ringwood will want to make sure there's a good run. Then there's Benjamin Johnson, Matthew Carter there, Tony Baird, Chris Daines, Tom Sudlow, Adam Dodd, Philip Russell. They're all there looking to try and get those times in. But now it's going to be about how good's the outlap to get the tyres up to temp, because they have been sitting and waiting to go. And then, have you got a tow that works for you?
Indeed, and as you mentioned, that crucial tow might well be even more important in this than it was in the GTUs, because these cars are so aero dependent. Because the aerodynamics of the car effectively weigh them down in a straight line. But as soon as you get in the tow of another car, that is completely slashed. However, you do also have the disadvantage that once you get up to your opponent, the momentum is completely killed as soon as you pull out the slipstream, as the air just whacks you in the face again. And while you also get that with the GTEs, you get that more with the LMP2s, because there's more surface area, there's more drag, there's more downforce, and yeah, that's so it's all about timing, really. You want to be right up close to your opponent as you cross the start-finish line, but not a second before.
Exactly, you have to agree with that. Let's go on board then with Jelle Peter Hoogland as he takes us for a lap around Daytona International Speedway on the brakes through turn 1 and into turn number 2. It's so difficult to get that corner right, but immediately you're back on the power through this small S's section, which is always very underrated, and then you hit the International Horseshoe, which is one of the most iconic corners on this circuit. 180-degree right-hander, small kink comes up next, and you need to be absolutely on it through this section. Commitment Plus is needed, the subscription service to Commitment, and then you hit the West Horseshoe, this second right-hander. It is a late apex before you get the power back down once more, and then you start looking at this left-hander, which is so difficult to get right. If you mess it up in any way, shape, or form, you've got troubles coming onto the very, very tough oval banking. NASCAR 1 and 2, you can see the safety barrier up top on the right-hand side. It's one of the highest bankings that you will see as well, and it's going to be very crucial to see how lap traffic is going to play a factor here for these HPDs here today. But they make their way to the bus stop chicane, which is so tough to get right. You look for your braking marker, then you try and hit your curves and get on the power. You can use a lot on the exit as well. It's a very safe one off-track incident point at that section. You can have as much as 2 tires off of the road at that section before you head yourself through NASCAR 3 and 4 and make your way to the tri-oval for one flying lap around this Daytona circuit. 5 minutes now and under on the clock. The first times are going to be coming in. Jelle Hoogland does himself a very nice time. It's a 1:34.1. He's 8 thousandths clear of Ringwood. Tony Baird to the top, 33.7.
Yeah, Tony Baird had a wonderful slipstream coming across the start-finish line there. There was a car directly in front of him. It was just as I said before. And 1:33.7 is the fastest time that we have seen all day. Wonderful from him. More drivers crossing the line, none anywhere near as quick just yet. Drivers still yet to settle up. Kevin Bolland's just about to set one. He goes to ninth position, and we still got Philip McDougall on track, and as well as Jonas Gillis, Tom Sudlow, and Chris Danes. And Danes, of course, was fastest in practice.
He was, but maybe his first lap wasn't quite what he was looking for as he looks to try and set himself up nicely. He heads through the left-hander here to go up onto the banking once again. A reminder, ladies and gentlemen, to like, share, and subscribe to Forever Sim Racing for more great content that you can catch all throughout the sim racing year with everything that goes on. And of course, this Venomworks Sportscar Championship has been absolutely brilliant and will look to continue to be brilliant as qualifying has been proving at the moment. 3 drivers within a tenth of a second of each other, second, third, and fourth. That tells you all you need to know. Neil Andrews there in second, Jelle Peter Hoogland in third, and Jake Ringwood in fourth position. But every position becomes a massive fight as they go through, but there are gaps, and big gaps at that as well. There's a 1.3 second gap between Adam Dodd and Philip Russell at the moment, 7th and 8th. You need to try and find those times. It is very, very tough to find time at a track like this because of the types of corners that there are, Caitlin. They are just so consistent and basic, some would say.
Yeah, Chris Danes there finished his first lap there, went 5th. John Hindhaugh summed up these corners absolutely. Oh, as Danes spins. Sorry, yeah, John Hindhaugh summed up these corners perfectly. He said people think that they're boring when they look at them because they're so, I suppose, normal, and yet they catch you out. And they really do. I remember when I was driving here for the first time, I was constantly dipping wheels into the grass on the entry and the exit. You have to be so careful of all of this. Also, that banking. Once you get onto that banking, it almost hits the underside of your car. Sometimes it does hit the underside of your car, and you have to be careful that it doesn't bottom out. The banking is 34 degrees in places, if I remember correctly. That's from memory there. And to put that in perspective, that's over 3 times the max banking at Indianapolis, where Indy cars can go flat out. So that really shows you what an insane track Daytona is. And while it is a roval, it's very much still a speedway in spirit.
It very much is, as they have the best of both worlds here when it comes to Daytona. When you talk January and February, when it comes to real racing and sim racing, there is no better place than Daytona for racing action. But There is now just a minute and a half to go. Of course, it is going to be the rules of the road here in open qualifying of Mastermind rules. You started, so then you shall finish as they go through. Tony Baird, very similar position to where Billy Fletcher was in terms of times. Got the time in early, only drive to break a barrier, and is effectively holding on for the final few laps that goes through. Dean Timms, for example, can't find improvement in 11th position in the 460 machine. He will stay where he is at the moment. Benjamin Johnson, though, did find improvements, goes up into 7th place on a 1:34.6. Can be very happy with that time. Currently behind Josh Johnson, so we got two Johnsons, 6th and 7th at the moment, as they will look to try and find their own improvements right now. But there is not long to go, Caitlin, and that means you've got to put your best foot forward.
Indeed, all of our HPD LMP2 drivers have set lap times now, and all of them look pretty much representative. You've got 4.1 seconds separating the field, although as wide as that sounds, it doesn't tell the full story, because the top, well, 8 now, because we've just had an improvement from someone. The top 8 are separated by a second. I think that was Josh Johnson there, going up into 7th position. Yes, indeed it was. So Johnson jumps up to 7th, and I'm expecting a few more late changes, but there's really not much more time to do it. The checkered flag will be out now, and as the drivers cross the line, they know that they won't be able to get another chance here.
They certainly won't. It was, in fact, Adam Dodd who made his way up into 6th place. So it'll be Tom Sudlow first across the line. Number 16 machine currently down in 13th. He does not find any shades of improvements. Dean Timms won't improve, but maybe Benjamin Johnson can. 34.6 is best. He does find improvement. 34.3, but he's 3,000 short of a position change. More drivers looking to come across the line. Tony Baird has found improvement to a 33.707. Crosses the line. 33.8. No improvements there. That's going to hurt. Here comes Jake Ringwood across the line. 34.2. No improvements. The track at 27 degrees may have just found its limit. Josh Johnson now, 7th position at the moment. Over the line he goes. 35 flat. Not good enough for him. Yellow Peter Hugland could not find improvements either. So the second laps were not working.
Ooh.
Andrews, though, goes to second. 134.104. He finds the front row right when he needs it. Right at the very late stages. 3 more drivers can set times. Adam Dodd improved to a 34.1. He'll dive back down towards pit road. Matthew Carter will be looking for times. He's currently the last of the drivers in your LMP2 division in 15th place on a 37.8. And then you've got Kevin Bolland on a 35.3 at the moment, who is 1.6 seconds off a pole position at the moment. Carter will not find improvements, but maybe Kevin Bolland can to get himself up a position. He needs 3/10 to get past McDougall here in the 883 machine. Through the bus stop he goes, slightly wide through that section, very tough to get it back on the exit, and now the banking comes along, and this is right at the death then for Kevin Bolland. He's got 30 seconds in order to get himself over the line before we take ourselves to the 2-minute grid up procedure. Rolling road start here, as is traditional, but I think he's going to get himself underneath the banking and say, that's it for me. He will. So Tony Baird will have pole in your LMP2 category with Neil Andrews alongside. Following that is Yellow Peter Hoogland and JPW Ringwood, Jake Ringwood there in 4th. Chris Daines and Adam Dodd will be on row 3. Row 4, we'll see Josh Johnson and Benjamin Johnson. It's an all Johnson 4th row. Philip McDougall and Kevin Bolland are on row 5 with Dean Timms and Philip Russell 11th and 12th. Tom Sudlow, Jonas Gillis and Matthew Carter make up the 15 drivers in LMP2. The gridding up procedure starts right about now here, Caitlin. So now what are you expecting for an hour? 1 mandatory pit stop required. They are fuel limited here today to 75%. It's going to be a tough race, and it's going to be all about fuel saving, which is so paramount to Daytona racing.
It's going to be all about that, Jake. I've raced prototypes and I know how difficult it is to keep your concentration for that entire 1 hour stint. It's difficult to get into a rhythm here at Daytona as well, because as soon as you think you've done it, you get onto the banking, and you're just sitting there for so long. It's difficult to know when the next corner is actually going to come, and yeah, that can really throw off your rhythm. So it's tricky. It's going to require a lot of mental stamina, and those who have that are going to come out on top.
Those on the clock who are watching, it is 1 hour on this clock. So when the driver crosses the line, the moment 1 hour ticks on the clock, that is the final lap of the race when they go through. There are no add-ons, there are no additional laps to be added on top of that for the 2 minutes they go through. And of course, there are no mandatory safety cars either at this point in time. You race for the hour, you get what you are given as they, for the one and only time, run behind the iRacing Porsche first safety car as they will look to get themselves ready to go in just a few moments' time. Something else that's worth mentioning is the fact they are allowed one mandatory fast repair in this series. Effectively, they get a T car, so to speak. So if they do run into damage or they run into issues during the race, they can have a spare car. They can get in onto pit road, get themselves back out again, and still have a shot of scoring some very, very big points for their representative championship pushes that they have. 2 minutes then put on the clock, and the pace car in the next couple of seconds is about to start going through the bus stop chicane with this half a lap safety lap, or pace lap, so to speak. Will get through the pace behind the Nomad Sim Racing car there of Tony Baird, and what he is capable of doing. He has been up there knocking on the door for a number of years as a driver to keep an eye out on, all the way back to the Bosra days of sim racing. He has been very, very good in terms of these styles of vehicles, and he'll be looking to try and cement his place as the man to beat when it comes to this championship, as everyone looks to get themselves all ready and set up. Those in the GTE field, they're leaving a good gap to the vehicles in front, making it 2 staggered starts as they look to go towards turn number 1 out on track. And once the green flag drops, then racing is pretty much allowed to go from that point. So we'll see how this one all plays out. But Baird, Andrews, Hoogland, Ringwood, and Danes, your top 5, as they look to make themselves out of turn number 4 here on the apron, and they look to go for racing action. 1 hour, no stoppages, no time to hold your breath, because this is going to be very entertaining to watch. We welcome you to Forever Sim Racing's coverage as the start of a season goes right now. The green flag goes, and Baird went early as we get ourselves going side by side, still for third, as now Hoogland and Ringwood will battle it down towards turns 1 and 2 here of this Daytona circuit. On the brakes they go, round the outside. We'll try Ringwood. Has he got it sorted? He's up into the podium very, very quickly. A nice clean start from those at the front of the field. And in GTEs, it is clean as well as they go through. No worries, no dramas as they head to the International Horseshoe, Caitlin.
Fraser Smith was right down below the line, actually went past the leaders before the start line. I think you can get a penalty for that. But anyway, has now dropped back again behind Billy Fletcher. So Fletcher's in second. That's PJ Clayson's leading in his Porsche. Meanwhile, up in the LMP2 field, indeed, you do still have. Well, actually, it's not Hoogland leading. He's dropped back at the start, but anyway, the race continues still very clean. I've been watching the back of the pack, which is why I've been a bit distracted there, and yeah, I haven't seen any bumping or banging yet. It's been a nice and sensible start, which is what we like to see in a 1 hour race.
And falling back into the line, trying to get draft, is Ollie Slade, trying to get past Ethan Bass at the moment. Poor start for Ollie. He's dropped a couple places as he'll look to try and get it done on the banking. Bass has already gone defensive here, trying to get the move sorted. Who's the last of the late breakers through this chicane section? Slade had to really get off of the binders there, and that puts him under pressure now from Louis Hanker as they make their charge through towards the tri-oval one more time. But now you hit draft central at the front 5 on a breakaway will not get a move done into this opening section, but we will have ourselves a little move. I believe that's Tom Sudlow, who's just been overtaken around the outside by Philip Russell. That is the case. Oh, and Sudlow almost runs into the back. I think there was contact between him and Russell, so back of the LMP2s, very nearly running into dramas.
Smith and Fletcher going side by side for second in GTE. That will be Smith coming out ahead out of the two of them, and Fletcher dropping to third, but going through on the inside of the International Horseshoe, and that's a good position to be in, because if you can get your nose ahead, which he has done for the kink, you definitely have the line. And I think that's what's... No, he's actually dropping back a bit there. So Smith keeps the place from Fraser just about there, and he's running wide. He's locked to wheel, and indeed Fletcher goes through into second place, just as he intended to do at the International Horseshoe. He's now managed to wrap it up.
But they have to be careful. They could lose PJ Clayson's at the moment. That gap looks like it's heading up towards a second, and 1 second around here is the danger zone. If you fall 1.1, 1.2 back, that's it. It's game over. You're not going to find many more improvements than that. Top 5, though, are broken away at the front of the field. Baird, Andrews, Ringwood, Hoogland, and Danes. And now it becomes a case of when do you want to go for the move? Andrews closing up in on Tony Baird. Moves to the inside to try and get it done. Baird's going to let him have it on the high side as they will go side by side over the stripe to get themselves a lap completed. Andrews will have the lead of that lap as they all look to hit the brakes. And now it's a case of what can Andrews do at the front? Remember, he won't be saving fuel at the front of that field the same way Baird will be able to.
Indeed, it's difficult. Of course, you get a face full of air when you're right at the front of the field. Meanwhile, I think we're going to go 3 wide in GTE. Oh, Ethan Bass didn't see Borgon John moving up the road slightly. Didn't expect him to, but Paul King and his BMW was right there, and they were going to make contact if he hadn't done. Didn't quite make it 3 wide. I think they thought better of it. They could have done down into turn 1. Definitely had that option. Meanwhile, I believe Jonas Gillis made a mistake there because he lost about 4 seconds to Matthew Carter on that last lap and is now almost being passed by the GTEs here. Not a great start for him. And the fight for second in GTE still continues. Smith much closer to Fletcher than he was half a lap ago. That will be because of the slipstream. And having a look again as they head out again towards the banking.
And now you look at the drivers on the back of this as well. You've got Elmar Noteboom and Ewan Marshall here as well. They're both going to want to get in on this GTE action because of the fact that they are being dropped now by PJ Clayson's. He got over the line 1.4 seconds, so he is really motoring at the moment. They can't afford to battle too much, but behind, here comes Keanu Borgonjon trying to get past Paul King. And, well, it wasn't quite a breathtaking move for a guy called Keanu, but sometimes a move just has to be a move. On the brakes they go into the bus stop, and Keanu has the place.
Ringwood there taking a look for second. I think that was just a slightly differing lane to Baird, maybe a little bit speculative. And Hoogland there just thought, ooh, wonder if I can see a gap. No, and realised that he couldn't soon enough. Although again, differing lanes there through the International Horseshoe. Drivers, I think, just leaving their options open in case something happens. Chris Danes there getting very, very wide, running over the grass on the exit of the corner. But keeping it under control there, still running in 5th position. And he is still very much in this fight for the lead here, right on the tail of that chain of 4 cars. And with the slipstream you get at Daytona, pretty much anything can change here. You have quite heavy braking zones as well. Turn 1 has a heavy braking zone, as does the International Horseshoe, and then the corner after the kink, and that is also very good for overtaking. You need heavy braking zones in a car like an LMP2 because they brake so fast. But anyway, now we've got the move for second. That's Fletcher going back past Smith. And the two who swap places going across the lane through the triangle have swapped places again now in the roval section.
That they have, and it's been a very, very fascinating fight between these two. They've done some fantastic work between them, with Noteboom and Marshall just sitting on the back and waiting for that action to come along to them. So now here's the next question. Tony Baird looking like he's got a mega run here, trying to break away for the race lead. This is important right now because Baird and Andrews definitely not teammates here at this stage, but what they want to do is try and break a second, work together, change the positions around again and again so they can try and gap Ringwood and Hoogland out of this battle at the front. Remember, Ringwood and Hoogland are part of the Venomworks team. They are both teammates in every shade of the word, or in every spec. They're going to be looking to try and make sure that they get themselves the best runs that they possibly can when it comes to how this is going to be run into the West Horseshoe. No real dice for the moment. 2 drivers, though, who have run into issues over the course of their laps. It's been Dane Baird and also Adam Wright as well. Both of those drivers are officially out of the race from GTE.
Indeed, yeah, so 2 early casualties. We also had a did not start, and that was Dion Phillips, who didn't even make practice. So we currently have 32 drivers running from the U35 who showed up. Currently everyone's still running in LMP2 and very close as they cross the lane.
Look at this, it's 2 battles in GTE. Noteboom trying to get past Smith, not going to happen. Ethan Bass fighting with Keanu Bourgonjon and can't get it done. So Keanu was close, but not close enough as they head themselves through into the next right-hander. He's someone maybe to keep an eye out on as this season progresses. This is an all-year-round season. We start here in January. We finish this one up in December. Of course, Venomworks have made a deal for the first 6 rounds of this championship to be shown with an option of 6 more as and if it happens. So keep an eye on that, and all of our forums posted when it comes to the Forever Sim Racing Facebook page out when you see all the battling that does go on. Battle 6th, 7th, and 8th, though, in your LMP2 division. Adam Dodd, and then the 2 Johnsons. Josh ahead of Benjamin at the moment. This is going to be a tough little scrap here because you've got Benjamin and Josh Johnson here together, but they are battling in front. And in fact, that is Chris Danes getting past Yellow Peter Hoogland there for 4th position, all on Yellow's mistake. He missed his braking point, ran wide, and that is a freebie. Cookies, that's Chris Danes.
It's a momentum-based track in places, and Yellow certainly did not conserve his momentum there. Back in the GTE pack, the battle continues. Ewan Marshall again taking a look at Alma Noteboom. Noteboom doing exactly what he needs to do, just keeping his car in the middle of the road, making sure that... oh, and off goes Smith. Smith is off, he's wide, and he rejoins behind Ewan Marshall.
It happens just like that. Turn 1, turn 2, very difficult. You're turning and braking at the same time. He ran himself in a bit too hot, couldn't quite gather it up together, but fortunately there is a whole host of room there at turn number 1, so he's managed to be able to use that runoff area to get himself back going. In fact, I've just seen a vehicle here, which is lap traffic, just go straight on down at chicanes. It's Jason Haddington, who is the first of the lap traffics here, and very much got it wrong, decided the best way is to go straight forward, but it has allowed Philip McDougall here the chance to try and get past Ben Johnson here on the inside. So he looks to try and go around the outside to get this one done. Here's they head into the tri-oval for the finish. The sick lap, look at that. Door to door. Well, they don't really have doors, but they are side by side, so they head themselves through. But again, on the brakes, Ben Johnson on the inside. That was wonderful.
Meanwhile, we've had a change for the lead. Tony Baird has taken it back from Neil Andrews. It was a classic slipstreaming manoeuvre. They've swapped places. And, oh, yeah, and Yellow, well, he's gone well off that.
I wonder if he had contact there with Chris Danes. They were right close to each other as they were looking to hit the brakes. And that was a case of Yele just went far too deep. It was a case of, I'll brake when you brake. And then he decided that he forgot to brake. Effectively, if they were playing a game of chicken there, Caitlin, he'd have driven off the cliff.
Indeed, he would have done, but anyway, drops back a few places. We'll see where that is as he crosses the line. He's just behind Josh Johnson, so he'll be in 7th place, I do believe. I will also see the gap between the leaders who swapped on that last lap. Ringwood, I think, made a slight mistake, possibly in the bus stop, because he dropped back a couple of tenths of a second, but he's going to be right back on them. Oh no, here's the bus stop, sorry. He's going to be right back on them with the slipstream. The gap between them as they crossed the line last time around was less than a tenth of a second. Of course, they're in starting order. Baird qualified on pole and Andrews qualified second. They swapped places in the early stages, and they may be about to swap again, just exchanging places in the early stages of the race. I think really we're going to start to see what the proper order is when the pit stages start to occur. But Baird keeps the lead there from Andrews and Ringwood into turn 1. Adam Dodd has moved up into 5th place. That's due to Yellow's mistake, although Yellow has actually managed to get back past Josh Johnson.
Yep, and that is into 6th place. So Yellow making the mistakes. And remember, there is a very, very tough instant count here today. It's 20 instant points, and that's a drive-through penalty. Once you get above 20, for every 10 instant points which are accrued, and you can get them from running into another driver, running off track, spinning the car, you get another drive-through penalty. You can't get disqualified, but you can get ad infinitum drive-through penalties, which will very much be the longest day in the world for so many drivers here today. Good battling, though, at the moment. Here comes Ewan Marshall in GTEs, looking to move up into 4th place, and in fact trying to get into 3rd place even to get past Elmar Noteboom. So can they get this one done here on the outside? The Ferrari always going to struggle here today, but if anyone's piloting that Ferrari masterfully, it has been Ewan Marshall in 4th place. And that's another thing to talk about, Caitlin. balance of performance. Long season, lots of changes will come and go in GTEs, and now it'll be all about who has the right car for the entire season. They are not allowed to change.
So Daytona has always been a BMW track. BMW is very, very powerful. They're like bricks that are lobbed out of a slingshot. When you get them onto the straight, they just accelerate away, and that's what we're seeing here. We've got, of course, Fletcher second, Noteboom third, Smith is in fifth, followed by Bass, and we also have other BMWs in the field, but those are the ones right at the front. Although right at the very front, we do have a Porsche, and Porsches are known for their mid-range acceleration, so they will be very, very good heading up towards the bus stop, heading up towards the trioval. I wouldn't have thought they'd have been that good in the infield section. I was speaking to my best friend before the race, and he said the Porsche is not the favourable car at Daytona, but PJ Clayson's making the most of it here. The Ferraris seem pretty consistent, pretty mid-pack, and of course we've seen that there are no Fords, so that's just how it's looking in the early stages. Of course, we can't yet tell you about things such as fuel consumption, such as tyre wear, because we're simply too early in the race. Meanwhile, we've had a crash. James Haddington has become the first victim of the bus stop.
Yep, and a big victim of the bus stop at that as well. He was heading through the section all on his own. He wasn't using all of the track there to the outside, going right through, and well, he gets it wrong. He goes straight into the tyres, and you've got not much room to correct it if you do get it wrong. More often than not, it does end in disaster. Battle for the race lead, though. Here comes Neil Andrews, once again looking to try and pick up the run, trying to break Ringwood off the back of this train, but it's just not happening. Andrews makes his way around the outside, and he now takes the race lead away from the Nomad, Tony Baird. But I'd say Ringwood is in the best position out of all of them. He's not gone to the front of the field. He hasn't had to save the fuel, but now there's bad news coming up this lap here, Caitlin. There are 3 GTE vehicles, Kim Bayet, Lee Woodburn, and Steve Norman.
Indeed, yeah, traffic is one of the main factors in this race. I'm sure it'll come into play. It'll affect whether you get clean air or not in the pit stages. It will affect how many cars you have between you and your opponent. Sometimes that can really races or bring them closer together. And yeah, when you've got multi-class racing like this, it doesn't matter what class you're in, you have to be equally patient. GTEs have to always be on their guard, looking at their mirrors, making sure that they don't turn in on a fairly placed LMP2, whereas LMP2s have the responsibility to make the clean pass. Meanwhile, 3 wide BMWs, Elmer Noteboom and who's that? Fraser Smith. They've just both been passed there by Ethan Bass.
Well, Fraser Smith had the slow down penalty, and there was a mistake at turn 1 for Elmar Noteboom 1 lap ago. That's what's changed all the positions around. Bass is having a great race, 42.9 last time by for Ethan Bass. He's not really too far off of the pace, doing too much wrong. It is now Ewan Marshall up into second in the Ferrari. Oh my word, that was close. And I think we've just seen a massive one happen here on our cameras as well. Battle for the race lead as well has been going on at the same time, because I believe that is Tony Baird who's in the lead again. Ringwood now is up into second. There were 3 across the line, split by a 10th.
Indeed they were, and that's the order that they're in now. Baird from Andrews from Ringwood. They've got GTE traffic right in front of them. This could really mix up the battle. It's a BMW, and they take up a lot of the road. No memes intended, so you've got to be careful. And luckily that BMW driver sees them coming. Of course, the GTEs are under no obligation to move out of the way. It's the responsibility of the faster car to make it through safely, so long as the GTE holds its line, which that one did. We've now got a Porsche. That one's going to hold its line too. The LMB2s are going to go to the top of the track, which is the safest place to go to when it comes to faster cars and the oval. That's why slower cars such as GTs are advised to stay low, and that's nice and cleanly done. Towards the bus stop, past the 3 marker, that's for Dale, through the bus stop, past over the exit curbs. It's important not to get that one wrong. The Porsche has just skipped straight across the
Dan James.
Yeah, so Dan James there has just skipped straight across the bus stop, but that's okay. He will probably get a slowdown for that, and everything will be
Comes
fine.
Ringwood. Here comes Ringwood for the race lead, looking to go high side to try and get it done. Baird's going to leave him the room as they go into the section. Oh, there they go. As close as you'd like. You'd struggle to fit a piece of paper between them at times, but Baird holds on there down on the inside. We're 17, 18 minutes now into this race. Effectively, the pit stop window has just opened, so that will mean that they can come down from any point now and effectively make it home. But if you're pitting this early, it's a long way home, and especially when you're talking about a track like this, yes, you can double stint the tyres, it won't make much of a difference, but you really are only pitting early if you've got a lot of damage. And welcome to Piccadilly Circus, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that every battle in the world right now is in their own little look, and Andrews gets, big hold up and almost gets run into as well at the same time. So Andrews held up there through that section by Morgan Thompson, and then almost got run into by Keanu Bourgonjean, and Keanu's done well not to run into the side, and Danes goes right up to the top to try and make his way past Thompson as well. A few troubles, side by side now for the race lead, and you know what? Tony's going to let Ringwood have it. Ringwood becomes the third different race leader overall.
Take a few deep breaths. That one was really, really close. And yeah, that's why you have to be so careful about the GT traffic. This is one of the most dangerous points in the race because all of the cars are so bunched up. It's almost like there's been a safety car. But anyway, JP Ringwood now going back to the, going back on the defensive, sorry, because that's Tony Baird coming through on the outside. He doesn't have the best line through the tri-oval. He's going wide, but that won't affect him much because he now has the better lane for the braking zone. There's a Ferrari there as well, so Ringwood doesn't want to risk outbraking himself and going into the back of him. Really, this fight at the minute is all about who can make it through these cars first, not who's ahead at any given time. Chris Danes right back in the fight as well. Wouldn't be surprised if he becomes our fourth different leader before long. And as we go through the kink, BMW needs to hold its line, does so. That's jolly good. Almost. Wow, no, sorry. I thought Danes was going to go to the other side of it. Luckily, he didn't, and the four of them are together.
They are, and it is a four-car train for the front of your LMP2 division. These HPDs, the Honda Performance Drive cars, are looking to try and get themselves through. Some would say it's classic LMP2 division at the moment. Well, you can only call it classic if there's new LMP2s, and of course, everyone will wait and everyone will hope that maybe an Orica one day may just hit the iRacing service. Nobody knows, but that will be soon. Josh Johnson, by the meanwhile, he's going to bump Adam Dodd through the traffic. Oh, this is fantastic to see as they go on through. And now you've got to weave to the inside, thread the needles wide, don't you, through GTEs. Oh, you almost got it wrong there, Josh. Very, very, very well done to keep it and make the corner as well. Josh Johnson there would probably save the race so far.
The bus stop is the most dangerous sequence of corners on the circuit. If you get those wrong, you do tend to be fired off towards the tyre wall. We saw Elio Castro Neves in the wall there after contact with Harry Tinknell at the weekend. Chris Danes now to the... Oh my word! And we're almost 4 wide for the lead! Chris Danes passing 2 of them. Tony Baird is the leader now. Ringwood's still on the inside of Baird. There's a Ferrari in the mix. They're almost going 3 wide again. And getting sandwiched in the middle. Chris Danes was lucky to get away with that one. Dropped again to third. Tony Baird desperately looking for a way past the BMW around the outside of the kink. That's a dangerous place to pull a move, but it needed to be done. He's got LMP2s right on his tail. It's attack or be attacked. And as they exit the corner, Danes is going to maybe get a little tap. Not quite. And it's Baird from Ringwood, from Danes, and then Andrews in fourth.
Well, and it's changed in the GTE battles as well because Ethan Bass is now onto the podium. Ewan Marshall has been overtaken, and it's been a fantastic race so far from Ethan Bass. You have to say it. He started P25 overall, and he has gained 6 places in this race. There have been no retirements in LMP2, so he has gained 6 places in his own category. On the brakes, the leading 4 go as they make their way for another run to the tri-oval, but there is more dramas for this GTE field because Fletcher has had to try and let through high, almost up into the safer barrier there as he let through yellow Peter Hoogland, but now you can see Bass and Marshall and Noteboom and Smith all together trying to chase down in terms of this battle for what is the podium, and the race lead battle continues once again. Here comes Danes looking to the outside. Ever the aggressive driver is Chris Danes, a Viking of a man, as he goes through turn number 2. Can't get it done. Wow. Wow, we were, as they head themselves to the International Horseshoe. The front 4 pretty much locked at the moment, but look at this behind. Oh, Noteboom's made a mistake. He's going to go straight on there at the International Horseshoe and drop himself out of contention then for the battle, and it's 3 wide on the exit. Slade made a mistake as well, so Ollie Slade now loses out to Louis Hanker, and Hanker suddenly gets 2 for the price of 1. Oh, all this Christmases came just at once, and oh, Noteboom can't get it back past Slade. Wow. Well, it seems that we have just lost Caitlin for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, but don't you worry, I'm still here, as they all look to battle out on track at the moment. It's not just on for the front 4 at the moment at this point in time. You've got the likes of Adam Dodd versus Josh Johnson versus Benjamin Johnson. So now, here's the big issue that's coming up here. You got 2 Johnsons looking to try and find a way past Adam Dodd, and currently it is battle against battle at the moment. It's going to be tough here for the final Johnson in the train, that one being Benjamin into the chicane, but very much superior on the brakes of the Hondas. They've done incredibly well to make sure that one has worked out. So no worries at all at that point in time. Their battle will continue onwards as they go through. For the overall race lead, no changes this time into the opening sections of track. 24 minutes now on the clock. They've got 35 minutes to go, but it's side by side, and it's Benjamin versus Josh. It's 2 Johnsons in a battle, but again, Benjamin Johnson decides that patience is the better part of valor at this point in time. He will sit, he will wait, and he will look to try and find a move a little bit later on. Still on, though, behind, as Fraser Smith now trying to get past the Ferrari of Ewan Marshall, and does so at the same time. And there's traffic to deal with as well, as McDougall will try and make his way through and gain the positions. But ultimately, that is now up into 2nd and 3rd now for to the Brittech cars, which is absolutely fantastic for them at this point in time. So no worries at all, Caitlin. I am aware that you are trying to get yourself back in as quickly as you possibly can, but you have to say, it has been brilliant racing so far.
Slipstreaming, traffic, and chaos. It's very much like the Daytona 500. All about track positioning, all about being in the right place at the right time. And I expect in a few minutes we're about to see that it's all going to be about who makes the right strategy call as well. Because if you drop off the tail of the car in front, which you can do very easily in the pit stop stages, you lose that slipstream, and it's so difficult to get back on their tail.
Oh, car on its roof.
Oh no.
There was a car on its roof. There was a car on its roof, and it is Tony Baird. It's Tony Baird who's upside down coming out of the bus stop. So it's huge for the number 22 machine. I've just missed it. He's gone into the wall. He's caught Chris Danes with him. It looks like a huge mistake from Tony Baird has made absolutely massive changes at the front of the field. Ringwood leads, Andrew second. It's now a fight of 2 at the front. Danes was a passenger.
That's a disaster for Baird there. He was fighting for the lead right from the start of the race, definitely a contender to win it, and I haven't seen what's happened yet, but that is a big shame for everyone involved, none the less. Not quite sure whose mistake it was. Doesn't really matter when you go into the bus stop in traffic. It's so difficult to get it right. I was talking earlier about how we saw 2 cars making contact there in the Daytona 24 Hours. We also saw a Mustang end up on its roof there in one of the support races. And of course, all throughout previous years, big names have crashed there. You know, Brendan Hartley crashed there a couple of years ago. And if he crashes somewhere, you know that anyone can. So, yeah, tricky place on the circuit, and very upsetting for Tony.
Yeah, it looked very upsetting there, and you had to say, Tony Baird, I think he may have got it wrong on the exit there of the bus stop chicane. I didn't quite see exactly what happened, but he went up into the safer barrier on the right, and Danes, who was 3rd in the train, he had nowhere to go. He ran into the side, and that's when Tony Baird went up and over. But it does mean now that it is Jake Ringwood at the front, Neil Andrews there in second position. Chris Danes will use his fast repair. He will get himself back out and going again. Go careful on the walls. But now he finds himself one lap down, along with Tony Baird as well, who had to take the tow as well. So both of them will look to try and get their races back on track. Hope they run themselves by a couple of drivers in this race. But that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Major points are going to be lost at the moment, as it looks to me like we're going to start seeing a mistake potentially from Philip McDougall. He had to go out. Oh, he's had a huge one here as McDougall coming off the exit of the bus stop. So he got himself through the first part okay, started losing the back, trying to put the power down for the exit, and he's gone for a very nice spin in the infield there, Caitlin.
Yeah, anyway, the reason I paused there before was because I couldn't think of his name. I kept thinking Tony Blair, but anyway, nearly right. Whatever the case, back to the action. I've just managed to get back into the server, and we still have... Oh, sorry?
It's the pit window. Ethan
Pit
Bass
window
has come in
indeed.
with his teammates. So on the half hour, or close to it, both Smith and Bass have decided it's time to come in onto the lane, Caitlin.
Yep, Smith and Bass coming in together. I'm not entirely surprised. Often you do react to your opponents. You have to cover them off. It's like a game of chess sometimes. And both of them in the pit lane. And I think I may be about to lose connection to the server again because I don't see any cars. So if you could just fill in for me. I'm not sure if you can still hear me.
We just had a spin. It's Keanu Bourgonjon who's gone around. He was in a battle with Paul King, who was just starting to get gapped. But ultimately, Keanu goes around under brakes in the Ferrari. It happens very, very quickly when it comes to these sorts of vehicles. But he was able to get going without any contact at all. He also loses a position to Morgan Thompson in his class as well, which was not quite exactly what has wanted. Technical issues for received throughput, or shall we say the disconnect for Kevin Bolland as well. So he's not the only one struggling there, as Caitlin has proved for us at the moment. But he's still got battles going on. McDougall has got himself back going. He's trying to go around the outside of Dean Timms, trying to get this position sorted all out, and does so through that section. So that was a good move done. Caitlin, I believe you still with us just about. Nope, that's very much a no. So there's the move done, and McDougall very much getting the move sorted. Ollie Slade, though, under pressure. Here's Elmar Noteboom just behind him, and this, for the moment, is third and fourth on the road, as the pit stop window has just hit ourselves at the moment. Traffic, though, is going to try and influence a way through. That's Tom Sudlow trying to get himself away by all of this at the moment, and he'll have to try and go on the outside. There's not much room there. There's not much room. Oh, no, there wasn't at all. Get himself in the grass, and he very much got the door, and now he's got to go all the way to the high side to try and get this one done, has Sudlow, because he's got to be careful. Philip Russell is close as well. Miscommunication with the traffic, and that very much all ended up in a shade of trouble around this circuit. So happens just like that, can happen in the blink of an eye, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out the way that many people have expected to. Josh Johnson, though, comes down onto lane, as does Yellow Peter Hoogland. So now the LMPs are making stops at the moment, which is key to where this race is going. It's 1.2 seconds now for Jake Ringwood at the front of the field here, trying to break away from Neil Andrews, but Andrews was quicker that last time by a full 0.6 of a second. He had much better the run of the traffic here today, so he's been doing well. Out of the pits comes Yellow Peter Hoogland, and he comes out a full country mile ahead of Josh Johnson, who took a very long pit stop by comparison. And if you can look and see just how much of a difference there is between those, Josh Johnson's going to come out with, I believe that is Elmar Noteboom side by side off of the exit. Yep, that is absolutely right. You look at where one Yellow Peter Hoogland is, he's already through the kink, looking towards the West Horseshoe. So that tells you all you need to know about how this has been going on. It tells you what you need. Gillis comes in to make a stop, as does Ollie Slade, who will come out in your GTE category right now in terms of where he's going to funnel out. He's not that far behind Fraser Smith, so I'd call that a very good pit stop here, Caitlin, as you try and get yourself back in again. But a good pit stop there is bringing drivers back into the play. Sometimes it's about strategy and not overall pace.
Indeed, yeah, I was talking earlier about strategy and how in a multi-class race it matters more because you have the added factors of, first of all, race length. Of course, the cars can't go the full distance without making a stop, and as a result, you have to time it so well it can affect you for the rest of the race if you don't, and that's one of the worst feelings as a driver. It can also affect how much traffic you come out in, although to a large extent you don't really get a choice of that in multi-class racing because of uh, the seemingly random placement of GTEs and LMP2s on the circuit, and alongside that as well, you have things such as how fast you want to be in comparison to your opponents at different points in time, in order to keep in the slipstream, in order to keep in the fight, or if you think you can get ahead, to build up a gap as well. It's one of the best feelings if you're at a slipstreamy track like this and you know you've got a gap to the opponents behind.
Side by side, it's Billy Fletcher and Morgan Thompson going at it together, and Morgan's going to drop behind as Billy gets his move in the 388 BMW and moves himself up now in terms of class into 7th place overall. So Billy will be happy with that one, will Billy Fletcher? So another one can be put in the books for him right now, but you can't hold much off because in comes Neil Andrews from 2nd overall. It leaves Ringwood out there on his own. So now this is the question. What does Ringwood do in this position here, Caitlin? Surely you've got to cover off Andrews as quickly as you can.
I'll tell you when I can see it, but that sounds about right, Jake.
It absolutely does. So Neil Andrews will look to get his fuel. Adam Dodd will follow in pursuit. Benjamin Johnson has stayed out, but very crucially, on his own, dealing with a bit of traffic in front, will be Jake Ringwood. JPW Ringwood at the front of this field will be wanting to try and gain as much as he can. Andrews is already off and away from his position, and he's got Hoogland not too far away in terms of pace. So Hoogland's done very well, has underfueled the car in the stop, so now he'll be on fuel save central, trying to bring it home to the line. It may have to be a splash and dash for Yele Peter Hoogland. The numbers are something that are always contested when it comes to a race like this, because it seems more often than not, someone does something in these styles of races which makes you go, wait, really?
In what way?
In the way that, nobody in terms of the form book had expected something like X to happen. For example, I was doing the, back at the time, the Blancpain GT Series World Championships, and VRS Quanta Simsport made the call at a Silverstone race to go with one right tyre only at the pit stop, which won them the race.
Wow, that's quite a strategy. I'll have to see if we get anything like that from the GTEs. They appear to be running longer than the LMP2s, and I'm not really surprised by that. They are better at fuel consumption. I remember making a GT last close to an hour in a race that I did, and into second position there goes Benjamin Johnson. So he's staying out for the time being as well. So Ringwood and oh wait, never mind, Ringwood is pitting. So Ringwood in this lap. Johnson will temporarily take the lead of the race. Still no GTEs in, although again, that's to be expected. I'm expecting Peter Clayson, or PJ Clayson's, don't know why I said Peter, to stay out probably longer than all of them. What have you spotted?
Well, I had a look at Ringwood on pit exit. He very nearly tagged the wall on the outside, but he does come out ahead of Neil Andrews, so retains the net race lead. Does Jake Ringwood as he goes on through. So he'll look to try and get the Venomworks car going with everything that he's got, and he's still got a gap to Neil Andrews. So it wasn't the greatest outlap in the world. It was just a tribute, if you get what I mean, as Neil Andrews was trying to get himself back to Ringwood, but he's not too far away. It's about a second and a half. That's not out of the realms of possibility to close that in. The 3 laps before Andrews came in, he was closing down all the time as that race went on, as more drivers come out of pit road. Philip McDougall, Dean Timms, they all come out of pit road, as does Tom Sudlow, as does Philip Russell. They are all leaving pit road after their stops, as does Elmar Noteboom in the GTEs.
So I know I said that PJ Clayson's was probably going to pit last at the GTEs, but if I was him, I'd be thinking about pitting soon, because he's got a Porsche ahead of him who will be undoubtedly messing up his airflow slightly. That's Dan James, who is a lap down, has a slightly damaged rear wing, telltale signs of an incident earlier on. But anyway, as a result, PJ Claysons may well start to think about ducking in very, very shortly. Of course, everyone does need to pit in this race. I presume that means in both classes, and we have less than 20 minutes remaining. LMP2 going through on the outside line, nice and cleanly done. The oval is definitely the best place to catch GTE traffic. Although one thing to consider is that GTEs are less affected by LMP2s than LMP2s are to GTEs, which is why the LMP2s have to be more careful with their strategy in terms of track positioning. Who's gone round?
It's Stephen Norman, and it's down at turn 1. Go careful. Oh, miscommunication with the LMP for Adam Dodd. He was very nearly. Dead said the doctor and dead said the nurse, and then dead said the lady with the alligator purse as well. Going through that section, it could have been all sorts of trouble as they went on through, but a spin at turn 1. It's okay. Out of pit road has come Benjamin Johnson. He's ahead of Josh Johnson, though, after his stop, which does mean now that Jake Ringwood leads the race once again, but the gap is under a second to Neil Andrews. He's been unable to get away. He'll be in a race right up to the checkered flag. Mark my words about it. But you have to say it's been a different story when it's come to GTEs. It's been PJ Clayson's and PJ Clayson's only at the front. Their strategy has been a lot more fleshed out with the likes of Ethan Bass at the moment, trying to run his own race at the moment. You've got the likes of Ewan Marshall, Louis Hanker as well. They're all trying to get in on their runs and make sure that their races are going to go the ways that they wanted. I'm just going to keep an eye out on Billy Fletcher as well, because actually Billy has come down in and made a stop. He was one of the earliest stoppers, and in fact, Billy finds himself net second in class at the moment here, Caitlin.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gains maybe slightly more than that. I don't think he's going to take the lead, but probably more than people are expecting. Oh,
here we go. It's Jake Ringwood here fighting on the outside. Andrews trying to go for it. No room at the end as they go on through. Ringwood survives the International Horseshoe.
Yeah, that was close. That is Ringwood getting or keeping the lead. Andrews may have a chance here. Well, you'd have to be very, very brave to go for that one. And he's going to have to get back in the slipstream. But you do have the banking coming up. And Ringwood there hasn't got a good exit. Dipped a wheel onto the grass. You saw the dirt flying out from behind the car. And of course, that can get dirt on your tyres. It can cost you vital fractions of momentum. But anyway, onto the banking again. They head. They still have the bus stop to go before they get onto the main section of it with the tri-oval and then the heavy braking zone of the start-finish straight. But Andrews may go through here past the 3 board and properly sends it in. That was a great move. But now he's going to have Ringwood on his
he's made a mistake. Bang!
He's hit it. He's got off.
Just like that. It was brave. It was bold. He was the last of the late breakers. He went for a move that many people thought, no, you just sit and wait for that one, Andrews. He goes through the chicane, and he's got it wrong on the exit. The back was just starting to turn on him. He was unsettled, and then you hit the brakes. There's nowhere to go from there. Neil Andrews will now have to take the fast repair if he didn't uncheck it already at the stop. It's a big hurt for him, and Ringwood now leads it a 1-2 at the moment for Venomworks, with Jelle Peter Hoogland there in second. And in fact, get this, 2 different teams, but Venomworks are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in LMP2.
That is a huge lead for JP Ringwood there. He has so much of a comfortable buffer because, of course, that's one of his teammates behind them. And while I don't think they will necessarily have team orders, they certainly won't fight hard, and it'll be difficult for Jelle to catch up to him, especially with the pace that Ringwood's been demonstrating. And Andrews there will be absolutely gutted. It was an easy, very simple mistake to make, one that I've made many times. It was just as he went over the curb, the car got unsettled, and as he landed, it suddenly found grip, and around it went. And yeah, there was no keeping that out of the barriers. We'll see where he is at the end of this lap. But yeah, that's gutting for him. And Ringwood there, that's so... Oh, and actually Ringwood there made a mistake in the bus stop. Oh, no, he didn't. That was just lag. Sorry. That's... yeah, sorry for the... Goodness, just a bit of lag on my screen, but Ringwood still leading by 4 seconds now from Jelle, and the closest car further back from them is Benjamin Johnson, 16 seconds back.
Out of pits then comes Ewan Marshall, and Ewan finds himself now in third. Billy Fletcher goes through, but crucially Ethan Bass doesn't. Louis Hanker, though, will be side by side coming out of the pits in the battle with Elmar Noteboom. And on cold tyres, are you going to get this one good then? Through this fantastic international horseshoe, they'll stay side by side as they go to the kink right now here, the left-hander, and try and get it sorted. Elmar will slot back into line as it is two different styles of vehicles battling at the moment. It is BMW versus Ferrari as the Flemish Sim Sports car gets under pressure then by Elmar Noteboom's BMW, trying to make the run through. But of course, the banking will come up and will always favour Noteboom at this point in time here, Caitlin.
Clayton's pits, so in comes the GTE leader. He's left it very, very late. We're in the final 15 minutes of the race, but he had a clean air. He had a clean road ahead of him. He had clean air, and he wanted to make the most of it. And that's a good way to run your race, to be honest. Stops in his pit box, and he will rejoin, probably still in the lead because he had so much of a lead before. And yeah, indeed,
There he
he's going to have a
goes.
very, very comfortable lead. I'd say he's probably tripled or quadrupled his lead in all of that, but that's yet to be confirmed. Really, we're going to have to wait another lap to see that. But yeah, that's worked out wonderfully for Clayson's. Needs to get it turned in for the pit exit. That's a difficult thing to do often. It's a very tight pit exit. We saw an Aston Martin going into the wall there at the actual Daytona 24 Hours at the weekend, if you saw that. But anyway, makes it out safely, and Billy Fletcher now goes up to second position. Marshall crosses the line in third, Bass is fourth, Noteboom fifth, and that is how they stand with fewer than 13 minutes remaining in the race.
Exactly, and that tells you all you need to know about how this is being done. But look at Jelle Hoogland at the moment. He is hand over fist catching Ringwood, who is probably feeling the nerves right now. 136.1 from Ringwood, and he's caught the heavy stuff in terms of traffic. And you look at what Jelle did, his own teammate for this series, 35.3, 8/10 of a second difference, and now Jelle's getting the better run of the traffic because the next two that he's got to catch, Hanker and Noteboom, he'll catch on the oval section of the track. So Ringwood, he's not getting the luck, he's not getting the traffic. This is not a signed, sealed and delivered race just yet. The Venomworks drivers will fight for the race.
Indeed, it definitely seems like it, and of course it's the first round of the championship as well, so it's possibly the battle for dominance of the team. I don't know quite how that team dynamic works, although often you see teams saying, right, you go for it for the first couple of races, and then we will start maybe focusing on one driver for the championship. Slight wheel rubbing there, I've noticed, between Philip Russell and Tom Sudlow. I was watching them for a few corners there. They were getting very feisty, and rub wheels very, very slightly, but nothing major. Rubbing is racing, as they always say at Daytona in particular. And they're currently racing over 9th and 10th in the HDP LMP2 class.
Yes.
And
Caitlin, you've got to also look, though, at the two vehicles who are 10 seconds down the road as well, because Danes and Baird are running 3 seconds a lap quicker.
you're absolutely right. Both of them, of course, recovering from their incident earlier on. Baird especially led the race in the early stages, will be fired up. He's the pole sitter. He's right on the tail of Chris Danes, and they might well work together here to try to get closer to the pack of cars in front of them, as much as I'm sure they'll hate working together after what happened. But anyway, they're currently in 11th and 12th positions.
Ooh.
And
That's Gillis around, and that is just after the international horseshoe. I just caught that one out of the back corner of my eye as I was looking at the GTEs. He just tried to put the power down, too much torque, and see you, mate, that's a spin.
yeah, easy to do, very easy to do. Of course, the infield section, you tend to be running quite high revs because you're in quite a low gear through all of these, and as a result, if you put the power down too quickly, the car will snap around. I was told that the Porsches can be quite spinny, but LMP2s definitely can be unstable. They're the kind of car where you have all of the grip until you have none of the grip because of the way the aerodynamics work, because of the direction the rear wing is pointing more than anything. And I think Gillis there finding out the hard way. He's had a tough race so far, only qualified 14th. He's only made up one position from there, and yeah, recovering to the race. But this will be a day to forget for him.
It certainly will at this point in time. Gap for the race lead overall is now under 2 seconds between Ringwood and Hoogland at the moment. And now there's more traffic. It's Billy Fletcher for Yele Peter Hoogland. Down the inside, Yele goes. And he looks to try and get that one done nice and neat, nice and narrow. They struggle. They match, actually, on the exit, the LMP2 and the GTE do before the power is fully applied down. But there are also other battles. The top 5 lock for Venomworks is not safe at all either, as we are now inside 13 minutes to go in this race. Neil Andrews, after taking the fast repair, a quick in and a quick out, is now on the back of Adam Dodd. The difference last time by, 8/10 on that last lap.
Indeed, still Russell and Sudlow slipstreaming, still Danes and Baird doing exactly the same a few seconds further down the road. Sudlow to the outside of Russell, still this over 9th position in the LMP2 field. We're into the final 9 minutes of the timer now. When that timer ticks down, that will the lap they're on will become the final lap. And Hoogland, I think, will probably catch Ringwood just before the race finish at this rate, although he will have the advantage of slipstream. And it may well be a slipstream race to the flag here. I'm not entirely sure if they might just hold position, knowing that they can't risk taking each other out, but I don't think so. They look to be going for it at this point in time.
They certainly do look like they're going for it at this point in time. Sudlow not in position, though, to really capitalise and make that move. They've got Dean Timms as well in front that they're both chasing down here, so they're both going to be right in a nice position here to get in terms of that battle. But you look at what they are all being chased by. It is Baird and it is Danes as well. Both of them trying to get by all of them. And if it all joins up, because McDougall's only a couple of seconds down the road from Dean Timms as well, we could have ourselves a 6-car scrap for 7th place overall come the end of this race. A massive battle then looking to brew for the minor positions when it comes to this race, and just how important this race has been in order to set a precedence for how this season has been run at the moment. But you do have to say, for Danes and Baird, this is both damage limitation. They'll want to fight each other, they know they do, but they know they want to get as many points as possible. They'll have to wait, they'll have to hope that there is time in the future, Caitlin, for them to battle.
There was a huge twitch on the infield section from Yellow Pieter Hoogland. That was a big switch of energy, and I can tell you what, I certainly would have lost that. So Yellow there did a great job to hang on to it. Lost about 0.3 of a second in all of that, but yeah, lucky to get away with his life maybe. But anyway, great save, continuing on in the race, although that's even less time now that he has in order to catch JP Ringwood.
Well, he'd still, even with that, gained 0.2 on that last lap. That tells you how much Yele is pushing at this point in time. 10 minutes to go at Daytona, and all of a sudden, Ringwood will look behind and see, oh, it's my teammate. Oh, wait, it's my teammate. That's the last person you ever want to battle when it comes to races like these. You always have to talk about it when teammates are close together on the track, Caitlin. Rule 1 of racing.
Totally. Rule 1 of racing, of course, is never to collide with your teammate, which Ringwood and Hoogland will surely be keeping in the forefront of their minds while going through this fight. I can tell you what, you tend to put things like that to the back of your mind when you're racing people who you aren't familiar with, or who you aren't on the same team as. But when it's your teammate, yeah, it just feels so different, and for good reason as well. Baird and Danes are side by side now. That's a good picture for the photographers, but not really racing for any significant positions at this point in time, and just kind of going for the fun of it now, with Baird losing out to Danes. The two of them have swapped a couple of times in the last couple of laps, and may well swap a few more times before the end of the race. So anyway, continuing on their way, Sudlow there dropped back a long way from Russell on that last lap, lost about a second, and didn't see exactly why. He possibly had a big slide as well, or maybe there was some GT traffic that got between
Car in the
them.
wall.
What have you spotted?
It's Morgan Thompson. This was right behind them. I think he may have had a bit of help there as he went on through, and it was from Chris Danes. So Danes taking his natural line, and it was a case of, well, Morgan didn't move over, and he ended up getting absolutely and totaled in that BMW. He finds the tyres, and Morgan's got a long drive, hoping that his vehicle doesn't sustain any further damage than he's got at the moment. Gap for the race lead, down to 1.7 now for Jelle Peter Hoogland. You feel at this point in time, Caitlin, the moment that gap ticks under 1 second, Ringwood's in trouble.
Yeah, I'd like to say I think that was a racing incident there between between Danes and Morgan. I think I can clearly see why why each of them thought that the other person was taking a different line, and really that kind of thing happens sometimes in endurance racing. But
Oh, look
anyway,
at Bass.
yeah. Oh, Bass. Yeah, indeed.
He's going for the podium at the moment here with the Ferrari of Ewan Marshall. It is, of course, Ferrari against the BMW right now, and Ethan Bass in the biggest boy in terms of the GTE fields, this BMW M8. It seems like it is a case now that the Ferrari has been reeled in at a rate of knots, 1.4 seconds. That last lap Ewan Marshall lost, and this is going to be a really tough challenge to keep a hard-charging Ethan Bass behind, who moves to the high side, looking to get it done at the chicane. Who's going to be the latest on the brakes they go through? It is very clearly the Ferrari, who is a lot better when it comes to braking power.
Yeah, Ferrari gets ahead, and that's because it's lighter, because it has better braking power, and because, of course, Ewan Marshall had a slightly better line there. Bass didn't want to risk anything too dramatic. In terms of the race lead, it's now come under 1.5 seconds, so Hoogland now well and truly in slipstreaming range of Ringwood. This could well end up being a very, very close finish. Both of them were very similar on qualifying times. They were separated by less than 100th of a second, and they're very similar in terms of race pace as well. They've been close all the way through. Hoogland had a slightly worse start, but gained time in the pit stages, and now it is all on for the race lead, providing that is their strategy.
Well, at one point there, it did dip under 1 second. I think it just stretched out ever so slightly for Jelle Peter Hoogland through the infield section. So has he got what it takes at this point in time to reel back in Ringwood, who will be right under the collar of his own teammate at 1.1, 1.2 seconds? You're just getting the fringes of the draft, and Hoogland has just been whittling away a tenth at a time, and knows he's got maybe 3 laps to go and get the move done on his teammate. You've got battling cars in front, though. This is Kim Bayett and also Craig Harris going at it together. Harris has made his way through over the course of this lap as those two break into turn number 1. Gap at the front of the field, 9/10 of a second, and Ringwood hits the traffic at the worst time. He's got to find a way through now through the S's section, and he really does have to take a slower line to get that one done. Does Jelle get it a little bit better here on the brakes? Surely Kim's got to go to the outside. He gets slightly held up through the mid part of the corner, and now the two Venomworks cars pretty much having to pass traffic at the same time.
Indeed, I think that's slightly... Well, that's probably going to bring the gap out slightly because they've got a car between them now, and they were less than a second apart. Hoogland has to take a less than ideal line in the braking zone there on the inside of a big mate
Andrews
BMW.
through.
But, oh, sorry.
Neil Andrews has gone up into 5th place. He's done it now on Adam Dodd. It took a while there, Caitlin, but now the top 5 for Venomworks has just been spoilt.
Yeah, and they're just about to pass PJ Clayson's the leader of the GTE field. Let's hope that they do it carefully. Indeed, they do, and they're still fighting together. As again, we watch the leaders of the LMP2 field. They've both just lapped another giant BMW, and Hoogland will again try to benefit from the slipstream. We're definitely into the final 5 minutes of the race now. And Jelle Peter Hoogland, I estimate, will be about 1 second back as they cross the start-finish line.
Well, talk about Chris Danes right now. He has got past Russell Sudlow and Dean Timms in the space of the last 2 laps. He's now up into 7th place overall. Tony Baird, for example, though, he has been stuck, is the right word. He's back there in 11th place and, stuck again with Paul King. He's had no luck with the traffic there as Baird compared to Danes, and Danes up into 7th. Now will be very happy with what he's got at the moment, but once more. That gap still under a second at the front with just 3 minutes 30 odd seconds left to go, and a lot less now as they head through the kink once more. Can Jelle Peter Hoogland, Caitlin, get the gap under a second and give himself a chance to attack his teammate?
So there's going to be 2 more laps after this one. I expect that Jelle Pieter Hoogland is actually in a better position here because he was gaining time on that last lap despite being negatively affected by traffic, and I do think that the traffic was worse for Jelle than it was for JPW Ringwood. Although Jelle Pieter Hoogland doesn't seem quite as strong in the middle sector. That may just be because of the slipstream on the straight. Whatever the case, Pieter Hoogland still using that slipstream to its full potential, sticking his car in that windbreak, that gap in the thickest part of the air, just to get that extra top speed. You can get about 5 extra miles per hour sometimes from that, maybe over. Ringwood up to 185 miles per hour there. Hoogland already up to 190 as they're about to cross the start finish line, and as they head towards the braking zone, less than 9/10 of a second separate the two. The gap came down again, even without the help of traffic. And I expect that it's going to come down again this lap. Hoogland may even have a chance.
2/3 of a tenth of a second. That's it, though. That's not enough. He's back there at 8/9 of a second, and that's not helping through the infield section. He's gaining on the oval, but it's the infield where Ringwood is just being clutch. His vehicle's not automatic. He's got the clutch at the moment, and it seems with 2 laps to go, they'll cross with half a minute left, that they will have themselves all of the battle left when it comes to this one. Andrews is looking for 4th place as well. He'll be looking to get past Josh Johnson here and break up the Johnsons in 3rd and 4th at the moment. So keep an eye on that one. The longer that this one goes, it is worth noting as well, it's side by side for the podium as well here in GTE, because Ethan Bass trying to get back down the inside here of the Ferrari. Ewan Marshall's giving this a huge fight at the moment, and Noteboom's joining the rear of this.
Indeed he is. Alman Noteboom, who dropped back a long way in the pit stop stages, is right back on top of them now, and he is very much still in with a shout at getting that podium position. On that last lap there, we did have a very late pit stop for Philip Russell.
Yeah.
I believe that may have been his 2nd time through the pits, but anyway, he is back in the race. We now have slipstreaming galore again out in front, and as they cross the finish line, it's come out to over a second again. I was going to say, if it is that Hoogland is gaining on the oval, that's good for him, because that's the place where you can make the overtake.
Yeah.
However, the gap, it came out on that last lap.
And it is the last lap of the race. The white flag out for JPW. Jake Ringwood here as he looks to try and get through. He's got the gap up over a second, and Jelle Peter Hoogland is on the outside at the moment. And unfortunately for him, he's looking in. There are other battles as Andrews desperately tries to pick up 4th place here. Get past Josh Johnson after his own error that cost him the race lead, the chance of a race victory here today as he gets on the brakes into the International Horseshoe, closing all the time. Andrews clutch, gained 1.3 seconds that last time by as they look to go through. Oval, though, for JPW as he looks to go through. If you want to know where the race leader is of your GTEs, he's just crossed the start-finish line. He'll be one of the last drivers to get over the line. Will PJ Glaysons. But Ringwood at the moment finds himself in a very nice position at this point in time, though. He's just got the bus stop to navigate. If he can get through here, there are no worries at all in terms of the way his races run. And there are absolutely none for him as they go through. There has been a change, though. Bass has got himself up into 3rd, through at turn number 1. We'll keep an eye on that battle, though, as the race finishes. But for Jake Ringwood, he will take a race of attrition. It was he who made the least mistakes. It was he who was perfect throughout this one. It is he who is now championship leader after race 1. JPW Ringwood wins at Daytona with Jelle Peter Hoogland there in 2nd position. The battle for 4th overall continues as it's side by side to the line now. Andrews up on the high side, taking the side draft, trying to get it away here now from Josh Johnson. And Johnson's going to have to try and find something. He's not got the overspeed. Andrews is going to take a 4th place and be very happy with it over the line as he steals it on the final lap. Battle, though, Bass, Marshall, Dodd, that's going to be close. But here is also PJ Clayson, who will come to the line. He will go and take the category victory that he needs, but he does have to navigate Dan James, which I think he's going to do without any worries at all. The Porsche has been absolutely sensational here today, and that is PJ Clayson's taking a dominating win in GTE. On for third, though, it's going to be a drag race for them at the moment, and it is category class battles as well. Can you get it, Marshall? Going high, Tony Baird got nowhere to go. They have to filter low. Under the apron, Elmar Open really low. They go through there, they take each other out, bang! Just like that, Bass and Note Boom, and also they caught an LMP2. They caught Matthew Carter in all of that one as well. And oh, it's a disaster to the end. How low are you going to go there, Elmar? Wow!
I have to say, that's all on Elmar there. You can't go off the road to pass a car that is already off the road. And in doing so, and trying to rejoin the track, that was one of the most unsafe rejoins I've seen in a long time. Big accident. It's not really going to affect the order that much, although it does decide third place in the way of Ewan Marshall. Personally, I think Ethan Bass probably deserved that. But anyway, it is what it is. Marshall claims third place. Elmar Noteboom smoking heavily on the cooldown lap. Ethan Bass will be disappointed with fifth in class, but what a race and what a finish. That was exciting, that was chaotic, and I am so looking forward to the rest of this series.
Well, official classified results then. They are up on your screen from Daytona International Speedway. It has happened right at the end, but it was brilliant racing throughout. But it was the man who made no mistakes throughout that race. Number 8, JPW, Jake Ringwood, takes the win in an hour, a minute, and 7 seconds. His margin was 1.3 come the end ahead of his teammate, Yele Peter Hoogland, and they made it a Venomworks 1-2-3 with Benjamin Johnson coming home in that third position. Neil Andrews would have fourth, but it would be one final thing that you wished he didn't have happen to him. He made the mistake in the bus stop. He hit the wall. He luckily had his fast repair and was able to salvage a fourth place. Josh Johnson gets himself fifth place, with Chris Danes having to make the almightiest of recoveries to get himself into sixth. Issues for Dodd on the final laps means that he drops all the way back to seventh, with Tony Baird eighth. Tom Sudlow gets ninth, with Dean Timms rounding out the top 10. Philip McDougall, Philip Russell, Matthew Carter, and Jonas Gillis make 14, with one non-finisher being Kevin Bolland in your LMP2 category. Caitlin standing by with the results for GTEs.
So PJ Clayson's claims the victory in GT, dominantly so, and well done to him. Billy Fletcher was second, followed controversially by Ewan Marshall, who I must admit did a wonderful job, and I think does deserve that third position. Elmar Noteboom in fourth place. Controversial, not a great finish. Ethan Bass got wiped out there at the end. Lewis Hankey is going to be sixth in class, followed, of course, by Fraser Smith, Ollie Slade, Keanu Bourgonjon, Paul King, Morgan Thompson, Craig Harris, Kim Behate, Stephen Norman, Dan James, who was the last finisher, and then, of course, the retirements from the race. Kevin Bolland retired from LMB2, and GTE lost Lee Woodburn, Jason Haddington, Dane Baird, Adam Wright, and also Dion Phillips, who did not make the start.
No, that is very, very true. But we move swiftly here at Forever Sim Racing to what is post-race coverage. And, of course, we bring you a few driver interviews. Jake Ringwood, though, joins us now with a big race victory. Jake, you have to be happy about that. It seemed like it was going to heat up to be this almighty Titanic scrap. 4 drivers having this fight for the victory. And in the end, it seemed like it was only going to be you come the end because of all of the scraps, all of the fights that happened, and all of the mistakes as well.
I'm still shaken, to be honest. That was pretty intense. I didn't really have the pace to keep with was it Andrew and Tony, but I sort of sat back hoping something would happen, and thankfully it did.
Well, thankfully it did for you. You have to be very happy with what happened, but let's talk strategy, because you had to try and cover off Neil Andrews, who looked like he had all the pace in the world. The dramas happened, of course, in the early stages, but let's talk about what happened with Andrews. It seemed like the mistake came in, and all of a sudden you're giving yourself a 4 or 5 second lead, but then you've got Yele Hoogland, who was your teammate and was also chasing you down.
Yeah, so I was fuel saving a little bit, so that helped me with Andrew. I got held up a little bit on my in lap, but anyway, that was nice. And then Hoogland, I'm on Discord, obviously, teammates, and I said to him, "You're not going to risk this, are you? Like, we're going to have a nice, safe 1, 2, 3 here." And he just said to me, "I'm hunting you down." And yeah, so I just had to sort of keep it safe, but keep a nice distance to him. Just about managed it, so I'm very happy.
But you've got to be very happy. And of course, you can be very happy for about a month because that's about how long we're waiting for the next round of the championship. We head to Interlagos for the second round of the championship overall. So you have to start thinking about this. You've got a month to prepare at a track which is notoriously very, very hot in terms of conditions.
Mm.
How do you think things are going to play heading up in and around February, right at the end of the iRacing season?
I'm terrible at that track, so it won't be the same result, but hopefully we can have a good one.
Well, never say never. The floor is yours, Mr. Ringwood. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you in the Venomworks team?
Um, Ourselves pretty much, but I'd like to say thank you to you, to be honest, for Forever Sim Racing for putting on this. This really been awesome. So yeah, thank you for all the help.
Well, it's been no worries at all. Jake Ringwood picks up the big victory. Second, though, in your GTE category, went to Billy Fletcher. He stood by with Caitlin Penny.
Indeed. So, Ethan, you finished second in GT
Billy.
there. Sorry?
It's Billy.
Oh, my mistake. Billy. Okay, why did I say Ethan? Sorry, Billy. You finished second in GT there, and seemingly came out of nowhere in the later stages, especially the pit window. How did you do it?
I'm unlucky enough. I had damage at the start of the run, so I was stuck. I struggled to hang on to PJ, and that was just solid my race.
Well, it ended up working out for you. Of course, you had Clayton's a long way ahead, but that fight in the early stages, very, very close. How did it look from your point of view?
It was actually really good fun. So the problem was I was crossing the line. I think I was about 8k slow.
Have I? Oh, sorry, I thought I'd lost internet there. Do we still have you, Billy?
I believe Billy may just be a little bit indisposed at this point in time, very much capable to be known when it comes to family life and things like that. It is worth knowing that sim racers do have life out of sim racing from time to time. But in the meantime, we'll have Ben Johnson joining us then, third position overall for him in your LMP1 category. So Ben, it seemed like a quiet race for you. You were racing around with Josh. It was quite to be a case of two Johnsons running around together for most of that race, but it seemed that everyone just fell off for you and you managed to inherit a podium.
Yeah. I would say, me and Josh, we always sort of bang on the same pace as always. We don't fly round it. We're not the quickest. We just sort of bang the laps out, and I could sit behind them. I had really good fuel, so I went as long as I could and come out. And I was in P4, I think it was, and then we had a couple of crashes and found myself on the podium.
Well, you definitely found yourself on the podium. You can be very happy that a few drivers ran themselves into issues. But let's talk about clean driving here today at this Daytona circuit, because this is one of the tracks which I think a lot of drivers who talk about endurance racing will know how to run a track like this. But when you look over to a different track, for example, say like Interlagos, which is coming up in about a month's time, how is that going to be different in terms of the way that you approach a Daytona, which is very wide and very different, to a track which is more narrow, like Interlagos?
It's just give and take. Because we know we're going to be a lot quicker through the corners. So you just got to be patient with them, I guess. It's give and take, isn't it? So we're going to gain some and lose some. Everyone's going to be gaining and losing throughout the field. So it's all give and take. So it is what it is.
It very much is what it is. It was also a 1-2-3 for Venomworks cars in the LMP2s. You've got to be chuffed with that as a performance for the team. First outing on Forever Sim Racing.
Yeah, we were really chuffed about that. We're quite upset where Josh just got pipped on the line by, was it 1,000th or something, by Neil. But yeah, 1, 2, 3 would take that.
I wouldn't say it was a thousandth. You've got another 34 thousandths to add on top of that if you want to be that precise. But we're just going to add Jake Ringwood back in because apparently, for all the people that look at Mr. Ringwood, he's forgotten to announce something and thank someone.
Well, basically, when I said it was, ourselves who does it, what I meant to say was thank you very much to everyone involved in this championship just for raising the money together to put this event on. So, yeah, I'm still running on adrenaline, so I forgot to sort of iterate. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Very much. About a month ago, I don't think we had enough entrances to make it happen, but they did fly in thick and fast at the end.
Exactly. Yes, it's been really good.
It's been fantastic to see. So there you have Ben Johnson there in third position. Jake Ringwood, your race winner. We were unable to get you, Billy Fletcher, to finish his interview after all the issues that he had. But Caitlin, final thoughts as we bring proceedings to a close from what has been a fabulous race at Daytona.
Indeed, it was. I was enjoying every second of it that I could see. My flipping internet didn't allow me to watch the whole race, but when I was in, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Close as you like. Slipstreaming the entire way, traffic coming into play, cleaner than I expected too. That's always nice to see, and no netcode contacts. That's wonderful. Again, from what I saw. But yeah, twists and turns, none of it was predictable at all, and that is what racing is about. Racing is not predictable, sim racing even less so. Yeah, wonderful race. Looking forward to the next one.
And of course, you can catch the next one on the 25th of February. You can catch that right here on the Forever Sim Racing YouTube channel. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe here, not only on YouTube, but on Facebook as well. The music that you have heard over the course of this broadcast has been brought to you by Violet. Her songs Convergence and Square One have been heard today on this broadcast, and you can catch her album Queen of Misfits on Bandcamp and on Spotify as well. But from everyone here, it's been a massive thank you for all of you who have been watching. That's been Caitlin Penny on my left-hand side, and of course Marco Barbanera behind the cameras. I have been Jake Sperry, and well, it's from one Jake to another. Mr. Ringwood picks up his victory as everyone around made the mistakes. It was a masterclass from PJ Clayson. He picked up a massive race victory, and he will be cementing himself as the man to beat for the GTE crown. But it is a long wait before they head themselves to the Sambalands, before they head themselves over to a wonderful, wonderful track. That one, of course, being Interlagos. We'll see you right then on the 25th for what has been an explosive start to what will surely be a magnificent championship.